You should not promote your listings or your shop on social media or any external channels other than internally within Etsy. Etsy does not like it. True or false?
This is absolutely false with one small caveat, right? Going back to talking about search engine optimization and needing to have a good conversion rate, one of the things that Etsy looks at, right, is whether when somebody comes to your listing, do they buy? And this is an example, Scott, of something that I mentioned at the beginning of this, where I said there's some grains of truth to some of these, but overall, it's hands down false, right? And so to me, there is a grain of truth in that if I go to Facebook and buy penny clicks from Indonesia, right? Nothing against Indonesia. It's a beautiful country, but they're not likely to buy stuff print on demand on Etsy, right? There's just not a big Etsy market for Indonesia. Sorry, guys. Then they're not going to convert, which could hurt me. However, if I'm driving targeted traffic, be that from my email list, from my website, from a Facebook ad that targets people who like fishing, and I sell fishing stuff, right? That traffic does have a chance to convert. And we've seen this over and over again with our own listings, right? The number one goal when you have a new listing on Etsy should be to get a sale via whatever means possible, short of breaking terms of service, right? So like, don't go to your mom and say, hey, can you buy my Etsy listing, right? Like, don't do that. But we should be driving traffic from as many different places as possible to try to get that first conversion. Why? Because the most important thing to Etsy is making the sale. And if we can prove that that product sells, then we can start to worry about the other ranking factors like conversion rate and dialing in our titles and tags and all of those kinds of things. So if we're driving unqualified garbage traffic, right, that's when there could be a grain of truth to that. Other than that, Etsy loves external traffic, especially if that external traffic converts because they didn't have to do anything to do it. Oh, and by the way, Scott, have you ever heard of a program? I know I'm getting really hyped up about this because this one drives me bonkers. Have you ever heard of a program called Etsy Offsite Ads?
Yes, I have.
Etsy buys external traffic to send to Etsy. They have a team of marketers who spend more money on pay-per-click than I ever have in an annual, on an annual budget. They spend that every year specifically to drive external traffic from Facebook, Pinterest, Google, all of these places to Etsy to then buy stuff on Etsy. It's one of the number one things that I hear people complaining about, right? Because you pay a higher percentage when a sale comes from Etsy offsite ads. And then those same people turn around and say, well, you shouldn't drive external traffic because Etsy doesn't like free traffic coming to their site and rewarding them by handing them money, right? Like, this is the thing that we have to think about. So to me, there is a grain of truth to this in that if I drive 1 million people from a website or from a place that are never going to buy my products, then yes, that will hurt your ability to rank. Why? Because Etsy thinks that you have a garbage listing because nobody wants to buy it. If, on the other hand, we are driving qualified traffic from a Facebook group, Facebook ads for people who are interested, Google ads, our email list, our website, right? People who are interested in our stuff, they are going to go buy it. Scott, what do we do when we launch a product? A lot of times we send an email to our list, and what happens? We skyrocket in the organic rankings. Why? Because Etsy goes, hey, 15 people came to this listing and 5 of them bought. That's a 33.3% conversion rate. That's blowing everybody else out of the water. Maybe we should test this in organic to see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and guys, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. Chris is not yelling at you. He is just very, very excited. I get that in the comments sometimes, Chris, on YouTube. They basically say, Scott, stop yelling at me. And I'm like, no, I'm not yelling. I'm excited. And I'm trying to get my point across because I'm like, oh, like stuff like this drives us crazy. And here's the other thing I want you guys to know and why I feel this is 100% false from the side of Etsy does not want you to drive external traffic. That was the statement that was made by this individual, by the way. And here is why this is completely false. And Etsy basically says it. And here's why. If you go into your dashboard and we're approaching a holiday and it's getting crunch time to where the holiday is coming to an end, guess what? Etsy is going to have a little thing at their banner and it says, hey, you still got time to share your products on social media. It literally says it. I took a screenshot of it so I could share it in one of my trainings. They literally say, Here's your link. Go share it. But what this person's saying is, no, they don't want you to do that. They're going to penalize you if they see traffic coming from Facebook. That's what they're saying. No, 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 no. What Chris is saying is if you send any old traffic that's not interested in your products and it comes over and it doesn't convert as high as it would if it was good traffic, yes, it can hurt your conversions. But what we're talking about is not the traffic. We're talking about the viewers that saw it, how many people purchased it. All right. So that's really what you need to understand here. And if you have an email list that is built up of your past customers, why wouldn't you send that to those people? Why wouldn't you send it out to social media if you have a social media group of people that are interested in fishing or whatever it is? So please, let's put that one to rest. That one there really, it just kind of goosed me a little bit there.
I'm gonna try to take a deep breath and calm down. But here's the other thing. So Scott, you and I, we jumped on with Miss Debbie back in October, and we went into some of the changes and some of the updates that Etsy was making. What happens when you run a sale or a promotion on Etsy? What does Etsy do?
Well, generally Etsy is going to want to promote that, and they're going to want to probably also, because they have their own type of like retargeting and all that stuff, they're going to get people to come on over to see that.
They send a push notification. They send an email, right? What is email? Email is external traffic. Etsy doesn't care if they came from Etsy search, if they came from offsite ads, if they came from the Etsy email, or if they came from your email, as long as they're buying the thing, right? And this is the thing where we were talking about ranking when we debunked the SEO is the most important thing myth, right? It's the traffic and the people buying. So even if nobody bought, Scott, even if we were driving that traffic from Indonesia that was never going to buy, there's actually still a chance, as long as we kept it under control, that we would rank higher in the short term. Why? Because Etsy going, there's people interested in this. We should probably put it in front of people. If then, when we get that chance, we don't start converting, that's when it becomes a problem, right? Would I suggest anybody run ads to random people in Indonesia to promote your Etsy products? No, spend that same time, energy, and effort on somebody who might actually buy your product. But if we're getting bodies to the listing, that's step number one, right? Step number two is then getting those people to convert. Etsy doesn't care where they came from. And actually, if you save them from having to pay a marketing guy like me to run more offsite Etsy ads, that makes them very happy, right? They don't have to take a higher percentage to pay for my inflated salary or whatever it is, right? They can just sit back and watch the automated sales roll in. What they care about at the end of the day is that your listing makes sales when it's put in front of people. And if that's the case, they will put you in front of more people, regardless of where those sales came from originally.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, if you are listening to this and you just saw that one little rant that we went on there, it turned into a rant. We didn't mean it to. Please share that with anyone that you feel might be thinking that, because that is absolute terrible, terrible advice.